Hi, this is Sylvia Kratzer and coming to you from Hollywood this afternoon, and would like to speak to you about how to live more bold and therefore live more brilliantly, both in your personal life, in your personal branding even, and your business. And the way I found it to be a shortcut for this kind of transformation that many of us seek, especially at the turn of the new year as we enter 2019, is looking at Hollywood. Hollywood has a certain success formula in its movies that we can actually tap into and utilize for ourselves. So first of all, I want to talk about story. And Hollywood, of course, is story, a particular type of story, and told in images, of course. Story, since the beginning of mankind, as we sat around the campfire in ancient times, has played an integral part of who we are, of defining our identity, of understanding our human existence even. It's almost essential, like food, human interaction, to think in story. And the reason for this is that story seems to tap into a deep understanding of our human condition that our waking life, our conscious, our rational life, rational thinking, is not always able to do. It taps into deep understandings of who we are, of our existence, and how to move forward. In particular, story in itself has a journey embedded in it. Sometimes it's a circular journey, but usually it's a story of transformation. But it goes deeper than that. But first of all, you may know, or many of us know, about archetypes. Archetypes identified by Jung, a certain kind of types of human beings that we all, to some extent, can identify with. They kind of crystallize out a certain essence of us. And in fact, there's something called unus mundus, like the unity of the world, that seems to speak to a collective unconscious, to something from which everything emerges and to which everything returns, maybe a God consciousness. And archetypes as well as story seem to be deeply rooted both in our own psychology, our own unconscious drives, if you will, as well as kind of deal with either the collective unconsciousness, or if you prefer, the unus mundus, the unity of the world. So how can we tap into that? Once, I want to give you an example. How Hollywood isn't just Hollywood, or the movies isn't just the movies for entertainment, but have a deep healing and transformative power. A good friend of mine some years ago found herself in a hotel in Paris on the verge of suicide. She just had gone through a horrendous breakup with her fiancé, who she thought they were going to marry, and they went to Paris, and instead it was a horrible breakup. She really didn't see any way out of her conundrum. She was in a deep depression. She felt her life was over. All the perspectives that life had opened up prior to this event had seemed to close. The doors closed on her. She couldn't lift herself out and see new possibilities in her life. And so she walked out in the rain to go for a walk in the Paris streets, just thinking of how she would end her life, almost in a trance. And she walked almost zombie-like in a movie theater. Like, Paris has a lot of those retro movie theaters that play movies by a particular director all day long on a constant basis. She walked in there, bought a ticket, and sat there for 8 hours. At the end of the day, she walked home, and she started not thinking of suicide in that particular moment. She went back to the hotel, slept, and the next morning she found herself back in this theater. This theater actually had a 7-day retrospective of Godard, an art filmmaker, French art filmmaker. She sat in this theater, she told me, for 7 days until the retrospective had finished and she had seen the movies over and over again. She jokes up to this day, but she means it very seriously. She says, Godard changed my life. She doesn't remember the films. All she knows, she sat in the theater and day after day, each time she saw another film, something seemed to heal in her. She walked away after those 7 days and felt like she could live and she could overcome her problems, if you will, and she did. I'm happy to say she's married to one wonderful man who's actually from one of the highest aristocratic families in Germany, and they have twin sons. So Godard saved her, she says. But what does Hollywood have to do with an art filmmaker? After all, Hollywood is formula. Isn't formula cliche? Isn't formula something to look down upon? And I would say no. And I could go into all the many reasons why formula is actually the essence, kind of a crystallization of a particular insight or human experience. Just think of formulas in chemistry and science. The formula itself is not cliche. The formula itself is like the archetype, a crystallization of an understanding, of knowledge, of insight. So Hollywood is so successful across the world, more than any other cinema has ever been, and more than any stories told around the campfire have ever been, because Hollywood has tapped into a certain success formula at the core of their storylines. Now, what is that success formula, and how can you use it in your own life, and actually use it for your own branding, even whether it's personal branding, who you are, who you identify yourself to be, or in your business, or even attracting the clients in your business, or knowing who these clients are and how to deal with them. The Hollywood success formula deals with conflict. Hold on before you say, oh, of course, conflict. It is not the conflict we typically identify with the battle between good and evil. Of course, the battle between good and evil is typically at the core of all stories, but Hollywood goes far beyond that. It taps into conflicts that happen within all of us, but different types of conflicts that speak to the human psyche. In the next video, we will delve deeply in what these conflicts actually are and how Hollywood offers us, instead of sitting 7 days in a movie, we don't need to do that and not knowing what changed us after we walk out. We don't need to do that. We can actually look at that crystallization, that formula that the movies offer us, in particular Hollywood offers us, and then utilize this formula, tap into it to develop our own brand, to transform ourselves, to see what holds us back, and to move forward. Please be free to comment below or write your questions. I will try to answer them in the next video. And in the next video, we go into the details, what indeed that success formula entails and why it taps so deeply into our human experience. And once we become aware of it, how we can work with that for our own advantage, how we can utilize it for our own advantage. See you soon. Bye.